All right, everybody, welcome to Chapter 12, Lesson 5. We are going to continue with our three-dimensional shapes. Hopefully, before you watch this video, you watched the other one, in which I show you how to draw some of these shapes. It might be helpful. All right, so we're still looking at shapes and how we can use equal parts. Okay, that's our main question. So we're starting on page 765, and it looks like it's very simple here, right? You just connect the dots and then write down what shape it is. Now, if you watched my video, which was posted along with this one, you saw a different way of drawing this shape. You can just do whatever is comfortable for you. I think my way is easier, but you can do whatever works for you. Okay? All right, let's move on then to page 766. This is a very, very important part. We're learning three new words today, words that we're going to have to remember. You're going to see them probably every year from now until 10th grade. So let's learn them now. They're in the glossary that you have in your take-home folder. So at the top it says, you can describe three-dimensional shapes by the number of faces, edges, and vertices. It's a tough word to say, vertices. Okay, let's look at them each individually. The first one, a face is a flat surface. So if we look at this cube here, this is a face, and this is a face, and so is this one here. Okay, does that mean the cube has three faces? No, there are more that we can't see, but there is one over here. We can't see it. There's one underneath, and there's one in the back. Okay, so the face is the flat surface on a three-dimensional object. The edge is where two faces meet. Okay, and it would be much easier to do this, to understand this, if you had a three-dimensional object there with you. So the edges are where two faces meet. Here's an edge, there's an edge, there's another, there's another. There are lots of edges. Okay, we just have to be sure that we count the sides that we can't see also. Finally, a vertex is where three or more faces meet. So there are three faces that meet here. That's a vertex. Okay, there are three here. So it's almost like a corner, if you want to think of it that way. And just like with the other things, the face and the edge, we can't see every vertex when a three-dimensional shape is on paper. Actually, we can't see it when we hold it either. We have to rotate it. So just remember to count everything that you see and that you can't see. Before we move on, let me explain something about some words that end with X. So if we have this, let's take one that's not vertex. Let's take a word like index. If we want to talk about more than one, we're not going to say indexes. What we're going to do, and I realize this is more of a foundations thing than it is math, is we are going to spell it like this. I-N-D-I-C-E-S. Indices. Indices means more than one index. When we have more than one vertex, we use the word vertices. So it's a little strange, but let's get used to it now. And when it comes up again next year, you can say, oh, I know it, sure, it's an EX word. It's vertices. I learned that from Mr. P's video. All right, now in the middle of the page it says use three-dimensional shapes. Count the faces, edges, and vertices. Now, there are a couple of ways you can do this. For number one, the shape that we have is a cube. If you have a cube somewhere at home, you can get it out. If you have a piece of paper that you can fold into a cube, I believe a couple of days ago I posted some that if you wanted to download and print and then fold and cut, you could. But you don't need those things. You can use just your imagination. You can see what's on the other side of that cube. You can imagine it. Count the faces, the edges, and the edges and the vertices for all of these shapes. Okay, let's do number one together. So, how many faces does a cube have? Well, if you've been paying attention, I have mentioned it in other videos. Why don't you pause here and think about it for a moment? Okay, I'm sure you paused. So what do you think? How many faces does a cube have? Hopefully, you said 6. All right. How many edges does a cube have? You have to be a little bit more careful here. All right. Hopefully, you came up with 12. And how many vertices does it have? You can pause one more time and think about it. All right. Did you come up with 8? If so, you're doing great. Do numbers 2 through 4 and look at the talk math at the bottom. What figure has 6 equal faces? How do you know? Ooh, something to think about. Good luck. All right, now we're looking at page 767, and it says at the top, circle the shapes that match the description. Number 5 says 0 faces, 0 edges, 0 vertices. What could it be? Which one? Hopefully, you said this one, the sphere. The sphere has none of these things. We don't see any straight lines. Okay, now the cylinder over here is kind of interesting because it does have 2 faces, one at the top and one at the bottom, that other circle. It has no edges. Why? You might have to go back and look at the definition. It has no edges because an edge is where 2 faces meet, and the faces in a cylinder don't touch. It also has no vertices because a vertex is what? It's where 3 blanks meet. Do you remember that word? 3 edges. All right, so do this page, numbers 5 through 12. Just go slowly, go back and check the definitions if you need to. And again, if you've got these shapes at home, use them. Or you just have to count carefully. Good luck. All right, now number 13. Mindy drew the 3 shapes below. Circle the shape that has 6 faces and 12 edges. Which one do you know is definitely wrong? Right, it can't be the sphere because it doesn't have anything. We just talked about that on the previous page. 6 faces. Well, let's look at this pyramid. How many faces does it have? It's got 5. So the only one that's left is that cuboid, that rectangular prism, and if you count, you'll see that it has 6 faces. And you'll also be able to count 12 edges. So that's the correct answer. Oh, brain builder alert, here we go. How many faces does a cone have? Does a cone have a vertex? Explain. Well, let's take a look at a cone. It always helps me to draw these things before I try to answer them. How many faces does a cone have? It only has 1. Does a cone have a vertex? No, it doesn't. Why? Because to have a vertex, you need to have 3 edges. Now, we don't have any edges here. So a cone is a strange shape also. Number 15. Which shape does not belong? Circle it. Explain why it does not belong. I'm going to let you think about this one. Okay, so make sure you complete these pages. And for homework, have pages 769 and 70. Okay, you can download them if you don't have them. And don't worry about the answers. I will release them in a few days. I want to give you time to do this and think about it. But make sure at the end of this homework, you know a face, an edge, and a vertex. It's going to be really important. Okay, have a great day. The end.